Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied to my left by my great friend, Steve Maurer, and we are here, unfortunately, uh, I feel like we're saying this a lot, to talk to you about the Cincinnati Bearcats. We are, of course, part of the 10-12 network, where you can find everything Big 12 related. Make sure to check out the network online and as well on Twitter, and listen to all the different shows that have great coverage of everything between wrestling, basketball, football, you name it, it's all there. And then as well, shout out to Charlie Hustle, our sponsors, for always bringing us some excellent vintage merch, and to Extra Points, who we'll be telling you a little bit about later in the show. Steve, the whole basketball thing, we can just keep putting it off, which we will for now. So let's start with the news of the day. Yes. Let's start with the news of the day, which is that the Bearcats, just like everybody else in the Big 12, has the official schedule release, which means we know who we're playing, when we're playing them, and can get a much better idea of what we should expect for this season. So, without further ado, Steve, please hit me, man.
Let's hit him with it. So, as of much debate, you know what the first game is. It is that neutral site road game against your friends and mine, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I actually live next to a Nebraska fan, and we're talking about going. So I'm thinking about doing that one. But so that is the first game, Thursday, August 28th. And then we know the other two non-conference games will be Bowling Green and Northwestern State. Bye week, and then you start the Big 12 slate at Kansas, Iowa State at home, Central Florida. That is a Friday night game. Don't listen to everybody else. Listen to your boy Steve. That is a Friday night home game. So there will be one night game this year, Justin. That is not the last game of the season. And then we have at Oklahoma State, Baylor for homecoming on October 25th, at Utah, another bye week after a trip out west, and then Arizona at home, BYU at home, and then at TCU to close the season. They really want us to be rivals with TCU. And gosh darn it, TCU, you got some fighting words on your hands, Bucko. I saw what you were saying today.
You want to catch these hands, you can get them.
It seems like most of Big 12 Twitter who creates a creative video, including Cincinnati, has one singular idea, and they want to use that. So you can all get these hands. Just try the chili. It's good. We will make if you come to our town and we beat you, you have to try the chili on your way out. And you have to recognize that it's good. It's required. Now, how many times that's going to happen, we'll talk about.
Yes. It might be less often than we would like. Yeah. Nebraska, first on the schedule. Following it up, that Bowling Green game, it's replacing the Miami game. And this is why I want to talk about this. It's not replacing the Miami game as in, oh, we're going to play Bowling Green every year. But it is something to be of note, because this is the first time in probably, maybe give or take a weird year here or there. I guess
literally COVID? Since COVID, without COVID,
like a century.
Yeah. So strange to not have those Red Hawks on the schedule anymore.
Yeah, it is going to be strange, but overall, I think that's kind of just the interesting one, aside from all of the regular Big 12 slate, where you're kind of like, I don't exactly know what we'll get from that, because Bowling Green is a decent team, and they're capable.
They did lose a couple big pieces this year. They lost their big tight end, Harold Fannin Jr., went to the NFL. Connor Bazelak, who started for Indiana against Cincinnati a couple of years ago at Nippert when Luke Fickell was the coach, was Bowling Green's quarterback last year. So he was on his 7th year of eligibility, and he's gone now too. So you have him at home. If you lose that one, then we got some problems. But let's just hope that we win that one. Let's start that one off, and then Northwestern State, Ed Orgeron's alma mater. You should take care of business in that one. So I think I can give us at least two. Maybe the one guy on our schedule release video who was like, "What school is that? Bowling Green? I've never heard of that." And so hopefully that video is not playing on a loop in the Bowling Green locker room this offseason.
Wouldn't be surprised. He's not an Ohio guy.
I don't blame him. I mean, only us sickos know all of the MAC schools and like, where they're at, especially us Midwest sickos too.
That is very true. Um, Steve, we've got a grand total of 7 home games. Looking at that slate, of course, like you said, Bowling Green, Northwestern State, Iowa State, UCF, BYU, Baylor, and Arizona. Of those 7 games, what's the ceiling and what's the floor here?
So I'd say probably the game that people will not be going to as much will be that Northwestern State game. That's probably an easy one.
Mhm.
Same with Bowling Green, not the greatest non-con home slate. Although it's hard to say that when you only have like 2 home non-conference games.
That's true.
Not like the craziest thing ever to pick those 2, but I'm going to go with the BYU game as going as my like best home game of the season this year, just
Yep.
because I think they're going to be good. The obviously biased Utah sports site KSL Sports had BYU picked as their offseason number 1 heading into the 2025 season in football. So, and they do. I'm pretty sure they return Retzloff. They return like a good amount of people. Uh, Weirdly enough, they we're going to talk about some of the movements from the transfer portal and recruiting window. They had a worse composite ranking than us in the recruiting window for both high school and transfer portal. So I don't know if that really says anything. I don't know if it was a lightning in the pan kind of year for them, and they got really lucky, and they just had some sort of magic on their side. But I'm the last time that BYU played at Cincinnati, that was the Tommy Tuberville game where he
Yep.
told a fan to go to hell and get a job. But I do remember that game because Taysom Hill cooked us real good that one. But aside from that, a bunch of BYU fans were there. So it
Yep.
will be great to see all those wonderful people at the game in November. Hopefully, maybe we get some of our Blue Lot crew, Lot 18 crew. Maybe
Oh
they'll
yeah.
want to fly out for that. So, Justin, that is my personal pick, but I'm interested to hear yours. There's a couple other options that I would find intriguing.
Yeah. I definitely think I think the least amount of interest you're going to get is definitely going to be that Northwestern State game. You're not going to really pull some people out of there. I would want to agree with the BYU one just because I think that is a game that you really you want to figure out, especially because that's a team that you came in with. The UCF one I think is interesting, but I think the one that I'm most
That's
interested in,
yeah. That should be a good one, especially with Frost coming back. And last time he
yeah,
was here, he took care of business. So
that
because I was trying
is
to remember if that was him or Heupel that lost in his first trip, but it was Heupel. So
correct. Um, I would say Iowa State personally because I think that game is the past 2 times we played them, they dog walked us. I mean, the one this year was a bit closer. I mean, I guess than the final score showed, but they kind of handed it to us the last 2 times, and they were also sort of that just like coffin nail on the season both times. So I think that's one that people are really itching to kind of get over the hump on. Iowa State's a really good team, and so I feel like that'd have a really good draw. But with all that said, too, like I mean, if you got 7 games there, I realistically think you could, and again, this is realistically speaking in February of 2025, way ahead of time. But I think with those 7 games, not including the Nebraska, which is a neutral, um, I think if you go 4-3, you're satisfactory through that stretch.
yeah,
4-3, and then you have to win 2 of the other 5 on the
yeah,
road.
yeah. I mean, I can completely agree with that. I think the only ones that I'm marking down are certain losses from that home slate are Iowa State. Well, that's the only one I'll really mark down because I think Baylor is going to be a good team this year. Sawyer Robertson will be good for them, but they kind of had they kind of really turned it on the last 6 games of the season last year. We'll see if they are able to do the same thing this year. And I do think that UCF will be they can be better, but I honestly know nothing about them, and I laughed heartily when they hired Scott Frost. So I kind of
Yep.
want to see how bad it's going to be this year. And they were already predicting a 6-6 or worse season from just seeing the schedule this year. So we will see. I am excited about having Arizona in town. Like having Fafita, watching him would be really cool. There's no more T Mac, obviously. Tedero McMillan is going to the NFL, but I would love to see Noah Fafita in my town, and hopefully we beat him. But yeah, I think Iowa State, first 10-win season in school history. Got to catch up to us a little bit there. They're going to walk in with Rocco Becht, and they're kind of just going to do the same thing they did 2 years ago. And I kind of wonder at some point if you see some of the guys that are on this roster still for the third year in the Big 12, kind of like take that one personally a little bit. Like these guys have kicked our ass the last 2 times out,
Right.
and we need to like really show something. So I'm interested in that. Personally, I think it's a good home slate. The nice thing about the Big 12 is that there's no team, like everybody's kind of at the same level. So you really got to wait till the season goes until you figure out who's going to be a real like barn burner of the game and who's going to be like kind of like the dead weight, which has been us the past 2 years.
Traditionally, yes.
Yeah. And you can get surprised by having like Arizona State come into town and like they eventually end up winning the league, but you beat them at home. So it's kind of like just a week to week thing. But I'm really interested to see what like a team like Iowa State looks like when they're coming in here, or Baylor by the end of October, if they can do something. And the other thing too, Justin, is that I don't really have a catchy moniker for this season so far. We
Oh yeah.
lovingly had Bowl by Boulder last year, and that didn't really work. So there's nothing really that's bringing off the tongue. Do you have anything? Or is it just Bowl? Is that just no buy
Bowl.
anything? Just BOWL?
BOWL. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna have to think on this more, and we'll have a more creative one going forward. We should have been more prepared. However, don't suck by TCU. That's really my moniker. Just don't suck this year. Like
Just don't suck. I like that.
just don't suck. Like
The Joe
whatever you
Madden
do.
approach. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be good, be serviceable. Just don't be bad. And I think this is kind of the thing, which is I think is a good way to transition this conversation. But you look at everything happening in basketball. I had a conversation with a friend about this today, but you look at everything happening in basketball. People are gonna wait, get the summer, clear their brains, and they're gonna come back to football, hopefully with a fresh mind and maybe a new lens on Scott Satterfield that they didn't expect to have. Maybe more leeway than they expected to have. I don't know. I feel like I've heard some of the air changing a bit, but even if not, there's progress being made. You've seen it from the first year to the second year. Again, this is like basketball for the past season, not this season, but the season before. You're a few plays away, you're a possession away, you're one little thing away from really just like hitting that next step. And so like last year with basketball and like this year, hopefully for football, the goal is all those times where you're just kind of in that in between zone, take advantage. And if you can start to do that, I think they will see a lot more wins on the board. The schedule does look very favorable for them. I don't really see. I mean, I think Kansas may have run its course. I'm going to get clipped for that later. I think Kansas probably run its course. UCF is an experiment right now. Iowa State should be lockstep. Oklahoma State, God knows what you're going to get. They cleared house on staff. It's literally like we blame everybody but Gundy for that last year.
They tried to blame Gundy for a good day and a half, and then he squirreled his way out of that one. So
as always, which he's done for a long time.
You're right, though, Justin. Like, I mean, I don't. Again, like I know we're 5-7 and 3-9 Nebraska fans, but I don't really find myself to be incredibly scared of that Nebraska tilt. Now I know it's going to be basically in like junior Lincoln, where all those Nebraska fans are going to be traveling to Arrowhead, but
to see their famed Patrick Mahomes Jr. as well in Arrowhead, the homecoming game.
How sweet would it be to have Cincinnati? Do you think they're going to paint Cincinnati on the end zones? That would be pretty fun to have that.
I hope so. God, if they could do that, Oh,
Yeah,
that would be just
that'd be
bliss.
awesome. Yeah,
They'll
and then
probably do
like
Bearcats. They'll find a way around it.
yeah, that would I would I mean because it's technically we are in I know it's a neutral site, but we are technically the home team. So I would wonder if that could happen. So but you're right though. I don't really see a really surefire like L on the road slate. Now this team has not really been great as a road team in the Big 12. So that one total win on the road out of their last 2 years. I don't know how out of how many, but well, I guess nine. They're 1-8 in road games, and 3-5, 3-6 in home games in the Big 12. So I can't really say that surefire any of them are losses, but I can't say that surefire any of them are wins. So unfortunately, I think it's another thing where it's a real toss up this year.
Yeah.
Last year, our guy Parker Fleming on Twitter put this out that we were like 1-4 in one score games. And you look at the obviously the Pitt game, and then we cut it close at the end of the Colorado game, but I don't think we were going to win that one. But you had different chances last year to really get those 6 wins, as we said earlier in the season. And they probably, the West Virginia game was another one that we probably could have won. So I do think that there's like a good sense of optimism. And then like you don't know what Kansas is going to look like this year. They kind of they played really tough, and Jalen Daniels is back. We don't know if he's going to be like fully healthy this year. So it's just a matter of if like we really, and they're going to be back in their new home stadium. So um I think if you can get Oklahoma State, and then if you can get Utah, that asking to get Utah is tough, but they did not really look as good without Cam Rising. I know their defense did look fairly good, and they took BYU down to the wire, but they like you took Cam Rising off that team. It was kind of like the last Jenga piece holding that thing together. They kind of fell apart after that. So if you catch them on a day where you're able to score on them and their offense is not doing much, then I feel like you can have a chance, because there were definitely some games earlier in the season where Scott Satterfield's offense was able to like put up some numbers. So,
Yep.
It's just more operating on hopium at this point. But man, the round of like 1 year turnarounds last year and this year and the previous year in the Big 12, I'm hoping that this year is our year.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to think too, like, this isn't the lottery, but if it's a lottery, man, at some point you're going to be due up. Like it's got to be your time at some point.
Yeah,
Not saying that this year is going to be some major splash, but you got 12 games there. Just go win 6 of them. That's all we're
yeah,
asking. Win 6, and hey, while you're at it, if you can, cool, win like 8, maybe more, but win 6. Like
6.
just get bowl eligibility, get the program back on track. How
And
about
don't
this?
leave it until like the last game of the season either.
Yes. Let's say this. This is the goal setting here. You get 6 games, A, B, when you get that 6th game and you get the bowl game, win the bowl game, so you end up with 7. 7 and 6 would likely be the I mean, you could go 7 and 6, lose your bowl game, but you'll win an extra game in regular season. Cool. Or you just win the bowl game. Go 7 and 6. Really, that's the goal. And don't lose to UCF.
Hey,
They're
we somehow beat them last year, even though we tried to give it away a couple times. But
yes. Just don't lose to UCF. That's if it's going to be the only rivalry game on our roster, don't lose to UCF because there literally is nothing left. No Miami and no West Virginia. So, and no Pitt. So it's going to be a pretty emotionless season other than that game. So
gonna have to raise yourself up for a couple of these games.
exactly. Speaking of raising ourselves up, Steve, who is in, who is out?
So, if you guys didn't know, as we record this today is National Signing Day, Wednesday, February 5th.
Or
Excuse me.
5th, yes.
Wednesday, February 5th is the day that you are listening to this. So the Bearcats are going to complete their transfer portal. They've already completed their transfer portal class. They've already completed their commitments for National Signing Day as well. We don't really expect to see anyone else sign. So bringing in a total of 35 guys this year, 19 from the high school ranks and 14 from the transfer portal. So the number one guy that I wanted to cover real quick is Zion Johnson. Recently got his 4-star from 247, 4-star running back from Georgia, top 25 running back in the country. I do like what obviously this offense does with running backs, and then also Gianni Contosis from Maryland, a top 20 player in the state. 3-star, had like 20 touchdowns and 2,000 yards over his last 2 seasons in high school. He clearly was excited to commit. He committed it back in like July. So another wide receiver there. I do like that they're pushing more towards the offensive side of the ball because you got to win on the margins. And then what they're doing on defense is that they're bringing in like big experienced guys, because that's kind of like an NFL approach where you bring in more manpower and experience on your defense, and you let the younger guys let your younger guys play offense because they've got more speed and like the quick agility. So I wanted to point out real quick, Matthew McDoom, corner from Coastal Carolina. Just the name Matthew McDoom, I like that a lot. And also, Justin, a man named Tawi Walker from some red school in a snowy state that also didn't make a bowl last year. Actually, 2 teams that didn't. Well, no, one team that he was on a team previously that made a bowl, but then went 6-7. Oklahoma. He's played at Nippert Stadium before, and then some team with the W in their name, but also went 5-7 last year. So he will be joining the Bearcats this year. Not replacing Corey Kiner, because I don't know if you can replace Corey Kiner, but he will be looked to be that more of a 3-yard back instead of Evan Pryor being your home run. To go with Evan Pryor being your home run hitter. So
right.
Those are a couple guys that I mentioned. There's also a high-profile defensive lineman that we got in the transfer portal who was highly rated from ODU. I got to go find him real quick. But, the only thing I will mention, and I do want to just pull up this man's name real quick before I divert. My internet is not loading. Anyway, so I will say that here we go. So his name, our friend from Old Dominion, his name is Jalen White McLean, 3-star transfer portal defensive lineman. It came highly touted from Old Dominion, so that'd be a huge part of the defensive line, and hopefully we can get Dante some help up front and get some more pressure on the quarterbacks. The thing is, Justin, that if you look at this class just by rankings, it's not the greatest. It's the second worst class in the Big 12, only ahead of BYU, as I mentioned earlier. Within the 50s in the composite, 60 in the high school ranks. So the hope is that, our staff is really just trying to find some guys and develop them, because I don't really know if we're there in NIL right now, to be honest, to really be going after like the top guys. And I know people are talking about a lot about like Georgia players being like our pipeline right now, but I do like Georgia as a state of football development and recruiting. Recently, within the past 5 years, Georgia has made football coaches full-time employees of high schools. So the coaching talent has just gotten better and better in the high school ranks in Georgia. And I feel like if you can develop those players and really get them up to speed and get them early and get them developed quickly, then you have an advantage when you're bringing up those guys compared to like maybe another 5-star that, doesn't work out for you or ends up leaving in the transfer portal. So that is, again, some more copium for that ranking. Not really making the top 65 as a Big 12 school, not really what you want to see, from the glitz and glamour part. But it's just one of those things that it's a different world now with NIL, and that is a part that feels weird to say that we can be involved. You and I can be involved in like trying to improve that. It is strange. And, I think it's a weird time right now too, where, just as a side tangent, that, people are talking about like, the NIL this, NIL that. And the fact that we can actually play a part in that, like we can actually get our hands dirty on that, is kind of just interesting to me. It's the first time, I mean, unless you were a big money booster back in the South in the 80s and we were giving out gold Trans Ams to people. It's the first time that like real regular Joe fans have been able to be involved in the process. So pretty fascinating.
Yes, first time since the Pony Express. Um, Here's the thing, you know, I look at a lot of the names that are on this list, and you look at a lot of the talent that's being brought in, and cross-examining it with everything that you say too, with NIL just being a very prevalent thing now. Um, I think it's going to be tough. You know, I think there's a two-sided coin to this, and it comes down to A, money, and B, what have you done for me lately? And unfortunately, Cincinnati's not really winning in either of those categories, which is going to make it a little bit difficult to compete. But I think that's kind of where you can go back and where traditionally it's been like we're going to win with the local guys and we're going to bring in that like Ohio talent and we're going to, we're going to get guys who really care about the brand name. If you can build something in Cincinnati under Scott Satterfield that has a really good identity with a very functional, balanced offense that gives a lot of these guys a good approach, and a lot of reps essentially, because especially when you see it from the running game, like it is very balanced, the passing game, like everybody's kind of got an opportunity. Um, I think as long as everybody still sees that they've got a shot and there's potential for this team to actually be good, you just got to kind of keep this train rolling, and you got to, like I said, keep making progress. That what have you done for me lately, I think really does matter, because if you've got a guy who's trying to decide between, Cincinnati and another Big 12 school, or Cincinnati and other regional schools around, like maybe a Kentucky or a Louisville, or even like a IU or Ohio State, or so on and so forth. If you got a guy that's trying to decide between that, you have to be as luxurious as you can present yourself. And that has to be a winning team that is going to get them to the next level. And so I'm really hopeful that all of this talent that they're bringing in the offseason, though it might not look super sexy on the boards, can be translated into something where we found the gaps, we identified the problems that we had last season, and now we can plug and play, and we can get a lot of guys up to speed. I do 100% agree too. I think the biggest thing that really interests me here is trying to put more of that emphasis on defense and that transfer portal. If you can get more of these, honestly, the bigger and more experienced guys you can get, the more physicality you can get out of the transfer portal, I think the better. Because I mean, just like in any macho man, like just manly, muscular, dominated sport like that, you have to have that physicality. And I think with football, like if you have a 23-year-old or a 22-year-old who's like in the prime versus an 18-year-old out on the field at the same position, you're going to have a size mismatch. You're going to have a little bit of that advantage because you have a guy who's able to actually have his weight up, and get more, again, more experience, more reps. And as long as you can keep that on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's going to help you. And maybe, for the offense, it's going to work out. Maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. It's tough because there's so many question marks on everything and whether or not everything's going to actually roll into place. But I don't know. We'll see, man. It's going to be interesting, and hopefully they can make the best of the schedule that they've got in front of them, because it does look fairly winnable. Just depends how we work it out.
Just man, I don't know. I want it to happen. But a lot of the people in the comments when we posted were like not as optimistic as we were. So we'll see. And also, side bet, Justin, how about this? We don't even have we should make a bowl. Make a bowl one. Number two, beat a legacy Big 12 team. I'll even throw Nebraska in there. I was going to say Arkansas for some reason. They're Southwest. They're not even, have never even played in this conference. But even if you consider Nebraska as a legacy Big 12 team, just beat one of those teams. All four of our conference wins in football have come against Houston twice, UCF once, and Arizona State. So if you think about it, Are we really a member of this league in football if we have not beat one of the 8 teams that invited us in, or Nebraska if we give it to them? So I want us to beat one of those teams this year.
I think that's very fair. That really should be all it is. And
Just
like you said,
one.
yeah, just one, and also just make them eat the damn chili.
Mhm.
Enough of these schedule reveals that is just chili, 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 chili. Actually, you know what? I'll give them this. I will give UCF of all teams the credit because they're like the only single one in the Big 12 that has the Bearcats on the schedule that actually used something that was not chili, and it was of a sad Bearcat, which is funny because you guys are currently 0-1 against us in the past 365 days. So eat that.
They'd used that same picture like I think last year for sure. I think years before that too. So
Yeah,
they got a theme going.
get creative. It's running stale over there, folks.
Yeah.
Steve, speaking of running stale, the air is very stale. It's amazing that we're actually 30 minutes into this and we haven't even covered basketball. I don't even think we need to spend a super long time on it.
Yeah.
We probably end up doing it anyways, but I mean, this is just terrible. Like, I mean, there's really not enough words in the dictionary to describe how god awful this slump and this just drop off has been for this team. There's a lot of different ways we could put it, but let's just put it this way. Um, you start off the season at 10-1.
Hmm.
And now you're 12-9. So you're 2-8 in conference. So through 21 games after starting 10-1, you've now lost 8 of your last 10 games, which is just unfathomable. Like I really can't wrap my head around. I understand this SOS and I understand everything else that goes into it. And yeah, sure, maybe we just had a lot more hyped up feelings than we should have, but I don't understand how literally every single piece of your identity that you had in non-conference play has been eviscerated. There is nothing left of this team. There is no rebounding consistency. There is no defensive consistency. There is no offensive identity. There is nothing left from this team that they had a little over a month ago.
Yeah. I think they honestly just got punched in the mouth at K-State, and they have kind of just been down a cliff ever since. It's like because they had 3 tough opponents after that, and we were talking about, you want to split those first 2 games, hopefully go 3-1, and then they lost all 4. And we are on bookending 4-game losing streaks. We did win 2 games against the possibly 2 worst teams in the conference other than us. And so Justin, it's just falling apart. Like I had other obligations on Sunday. I did not watch a lick, and I did not really want to. And I looked at halftime; it was like 43-25, and I was like, "Oh God!" Like it's and then just seeing all the fans talk about it after the game, and just how it's honestly gotten like to a point where it's toxic. It's not really.
It is.
It's not apathetic anymore. It's not apathetic. It's toxic, and I think that's a level that I think we need to pull back from, because it got to the point where Sean Kilpatrick has been live tweeting games recently. So shout out to him. Keep doing it. I like doing that. But then,
a lot of back, buddy.
Yeah. But then a lot of Wes's former players have been tweeting over the last couple of days, and even Cam Broom chimed in about, just different things about, why weren't you supporting us? Why wasn't there this much talk last year when we were winning? Like emojis from Landers Nolly wondering like why we should just like tank the season. There's just a lot of like, I think it's just gotten to a point now where people are asking a lot of just like bad faith, toxic questions. And look, I understand that Wes Miller has not done a good enough job. I don't want to just pin it all on him. I do think it's partially some of the players. It's it's a shocking drop off from some of the guys, just like, it's just been stunning to watch. And, Justin, I want to let you cook here. You posted a couple things over the weekend about Dan and Vic, and I want I just want to hear what you think's going on, like with their just mid-season stuff.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like that whole post in general, like I know some people also will be frustrated that like we're still comparing something of a Vic to Dan, but it's like the fall off in that is really interesting. And again, like Vic's situation definitely seemed to come more from his sickness that he had last year. Like he got sick, wasn't right, came back after, that break and just was never the same. And then I guess couldn't get his confidence back, and then things went on a slide. And towards the end of the season, I guess he started to get himself back more into the rotation, but just was never really the same player that you had at the beginning of the season. Dan, of course, was injured to start the season, but got in and was performing to and above expectations of what you'd want out of him. And then again, it looks like the exact same show happening from last year to this year. It's just a different player. And again, last year, arguably, Vic was your best player. And then just completely shrivels up and disappears. And the same thing is happening to Dan. And I'm not trying to point fingers at anything or say that somebody's doing something inherently wrong, but I'm trying to figure out like is it like is it a psychological thing? Is it a physical thing or some kind of injury? What's happening? Because Wes pulled Dan out of the lineup for this game, put him on the bench for the first time, which again happened to Vic last year. Wasn't able to get things right, had to put him on the bench. And it's just, why is this happening to the key player? First of all, second of all, why is the team completely losing its identity? Why are so many of these skill sets non-transferable from the beginning of your season to the middle of your season? And why are so many of these guys just so inconsistent? Like this team is missing. And I think the biggest thing that I look at is your leaders on this team. You're missing a John Newman that you had last year. And I would love to say that like we have some of that in everybody. I think you can kind of spread John Newman out to a bunch of different guys, but he is not really, you can't encapsulate that into one person on this team because we don't have it. Like it's missing. Like you need that kind of guy. And I think the problem is if Dan's supposed to be your best player and Dan's supposed to be your key guy, and now he's gone to the bench, what does that say? Because you don't have a vocal leader on this team. And I think Dylan should be that guy. And I think maybe he is, but like, I don't know. Like maybe Dylan just doesn't have that on the court. And that's not like a thing saying like he can't be that guy, but I think he's just so new to the program that like, I don't know if he's in the headspace yet to be able to say like, figure it out. He to bring this team together. I think he's still kind of like learning some of these things. And hopefully he sticks around because I think he would be the really good leader of this team in that center of the locker room. But it just seems like these guys really aren't. It seems like the chemistry isn't there. Like you look at the games, like they're not really smiling off the bench anymore. They're just kind of watching this thing unravel in the same way that all of us are. And I would like to say that you could blame the fans and say like, hey, fans aren't showing up or fans don't care or this or that. Like the fans are still showing up, but like you got to put a product out there that gives them a reason to come. You have to give them something and a reason to feel like they can believe in this team and take the time out of their day and take the mental element of their day to invest in this team and get something that makes them feel better about it. I think what everybody, and when I'll end with this is everybody that's watched Bearcats basketball over the past month and change has not felt better about Bearcats basketball after taking the 2 or 3 hours out of their day to watch it. Yeah. Everybody just goes home and says, man, I wish I would have done something else with my time. Nobody has actually felt, yeah, that's great. I'm glad I did that.
It's just frustrating. And the other thing too, to me, Justin, is that you finally win the rebounding battle on Sunday after 8 straight games of losing it, which is just like, it's just an effort thing. That's a Cincinnati basketball thing. You got to take pride in that, man. Like that was just like so disheartening for us to like continually like get our ass kicked on the glass. Like it's one of our favorite things that we talk about, but like it's just been like so many so many games now that you had like let that happen, and like finally that changed. But like Tony Pike has been a great like talk like really good on the radio last week, talking about a lot of the problems. And the great thing about Tony is that a lot of the things he says are pretty factually based, and a lot of
Yep.
his opinions are not like far off from fact. Like they're informed by facts. They're not wrong.
Correct.
So like just talking about how like the effort's not there anymore. Like the just he asked Austin, like his producer Austin Elmore, who was an Ohio State guy. They both went to that Ohio State Cincinnati exhibition game. It's like, how is this the same team that we
Yep.
saw that night? And I do think a lot of their offense turned out to be lobs, which we've all talked about that we don't like those anymore. But the other thing too, Justin, is that like their 3-point shooting has kind of just fallen off a cliff since then. Only a couple ups and downs, but they just don't shoot the ball very well. They don't shoot the ball from three very well, and they don't really have another option to get easy buckets. And you mentioned it, we have no 20-point games from anybody other than CMOS once against a non-con team earlier this year in a bye game. Like it's just a lack of scoring and a lack of a bona fide go-to scorer. And there's a lot of just different theories that fans have. I don't really want to get into them. Have your own theories. Come up with something. Like, I mean, it's kind of what you got to do to get through this slog. And I also don't blame people for not wanting to watch anymore. Personally, I did not watch on Sunday. It wasn't because like I chose to not to. I was out. I was doing something. But I was thinking about tomorrow night, UCF, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to watch. The CBS Sports Network games, by the way, are like prohibitive for me to watch because whatever reason, Optics does not have the contract with CBS Sports Network. And also I have Paramount Plus, and CBS Sports Network is not streaming on Paramount Plus somehow either.
Love that.
So explain those two to me. But anyway, it's just like, I don't blame you if you feel like you have something better to do with your time. If you do, we're going to talk about some of the other sports in the Bearcat Sports wrap up, but like I would definitely say try to stay like within the university if you can. There's a lot of really good sports stories just within the university. So if you still love the Bearcats, but you can't really watch this basketball team anymore, I don't blame you. There's some other good stories though. So stick with the school. It's just like, so Justin, my final point, I want to get your thoughts. I think people have talked about, you don't have the money to fire Wes. And I don't really think that it's a money thing. I don't think they're going to fire him. I don't think it would be a bad thing if they did. But, and since it looks like they're not going to fire him, we should try to go into next year with a clean slate. Just give him the off season. You talked about putting together like a dream staff for next season. That would be just an amazing like nightly television watch of having Bob Huggins and Roy Williams on the same staff. That would be just electric.
Pipe dream, but
I know, but like I think it's he's not going to get fired. So I think if you just want to come back next year and see what happens, completely fine. I get that, and I think no one's going to be happy with it, But you John Cunningham made the contract, and by the way, Justin, have we seen John Cunningham like pictured in public since he bought beers for everyone at the Xavier game?
Dude, that was the first and only time I've seen John Cunningham in public since I don't even know years. Like the dude is in the shadows, which I mean, like I guess good for you if you want to operate from the shadows, but
yeah, and I don't know if they're going to fire Cunningham this year either. Like I don't like it seems like the tea leaves say no. I know there's not really like that kind of talk, but Dan, like Justin, you listened to our guy Chad Brendel the other day, and he like usually Chad is like trying to like just be just still be on the reporting side, right? He's still having to, he doesn't want to like ruin relationships and like kill stuff, but even he was frustrated with it, and like that's like
he's been vocal in a way that he hasn't in a long time. Like no discredit to Chad, but like Chad does have to like be he has to be a lot more conscious of what he says than what the rest of us do. And that
And what
is
you and I say, yeah.
completely, yes, and completely respectful of
If
that.
Chad
And
goes
I
on
get
a
it.
rant about how the school incorrectly took away things from the students and it was just the students being bad, then he gets in trouble for that. I don't,
Yeah,
so I'm good.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the thing. Like, you look at what you have this year, you look at next year, and it's like, sometimes you're gonna have a duck. And that season might just not work out. It happens to a lot of programs. Um, the difference is how you respond to that. And I think you have to look at everything that you've put together this season, and you have to look. Wes Miller has to look himself in the mirror and say, what do I have to do to ensure that the absolute floor remains the absolute floor? It does not go past the absolute floor. Like, we said the floor for this season was like bubble getting into the tournament.
We said tournament,
The-
yeah.
like like I
Or
said,
I
that's
said
the
tournament,
floor. That's the floor.
right?
Like
Yeah,
the expectation was to get into the tournament, but hopefully you would be one of the like top four teams. Top four teams, maybe you're like a 5 or 6 seed, maybe even higher, but your floor was you make the tournament with all of this talent and all the money put behind it. And
yeah,
so, with all of that said, ensure that whatever you do in the off season, if you're sticking around, make sure that that floor remains a floor and you never see a season like that again. And also, with all of that said, for Cunningham, in that perspective, I don't see anything happening. I just don't. Let's be honest, we're not a school that does buyouts. Like, we just don't. Like, it's expensive. We don't have the money. I don't think we could
we did a
afford it.
$1 million buyout for Tommy Tuberville, and that was
Yeah,
after he basically like called a donor a clown. Like,
exactly.
so that was like, and that was when we really didn't have money. And next year we'll get the full Big 12 payment, but then we'll be paying the house,
Right.
full 20 million as part of that. So it's
Yeah.
like not a 1-for-1. And unless you or I or some Joe Schmo wins the lottery, you're not going to get instantaneous change.
You're not. And again, like, it's this constant battle of, does instantaneous change when all of the heat's on, is that actually a good thing? And the quad one record would show that it might be a good thing to have some change.
Yeah.
I think it shows that you can't cut it at this level.
Yeah.
But I will say this much: as angry as I am about this season, and as frustrated as so many people are about the season and the results of it thus far, there is a chance that if you go into next year and you get your shit together, that what this year was supposed to be is what next year can be. And again, that's just that more hopium, like just hoping that everything works out. But there is potential for that to be the case. But it's going to be really tough considering you're losing some guys that were supposed to be your bucket getters. And unlike last year you came out with a lot of energy and a lot of excitement and a lot of buy-in from fans and a lot of buy-in from players, and you kept that core. Are
Yeah.
you able to do that again? I don't know. I mean, in this climate with NIL and with how hot the pressure is on this team to succeed and how angry everybody's been, if you were a player, would you honestly look at all this and say, like, say you're Dylan Mitchell, like, not, I don't want to put this shit out in the air. I'm going to knock on wood because I love Dylan Mitchell. Like, I want him to stay on this team. But if you're Dylan Mitchell, you see how basically the rest of this team is just not really working out. And you see where all the pressure is heading. And maybe this thing could be good. Maybe it isn't. If somebody offers you more money, are you going to say no to that? Like, that's
Yeah.
where I get at. And like, I'm
Same with
concerned about
same with
the
Skillings and same with other guys. Just look at Victor Larkin and
yeah,
Jamil Reynolds and what they're doing this year. Like, I know obviously Jamil is in the AAC, not the like, it's not a like, it is a big step down from the Big 12, but it's like those two guys like left and are on better teams and have done better this year. So it's just like one of those things where it's, as a player, just as a human, how do you like not look at another like opportunity and be like, okay, I'm just gonna go do that just because it's like it's better for me, and it's not as toxic. I mean, Vic left because people were booing him, and like look now, it's just
Yeah,
frustrating.
that's a very good point too. And I mean, I think it's the best way to end this off is to just say this season sucks. Flat out, it sucks. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, it just is what it is. Maybe next season, if you can return all the pieces and everything goes right, you can get what you hoped for this season. But there's a lot of buts in there. There's a lot of buts. And hopefully, all those buts don't keep asses from getting in seats next season. So, Steve, it's about time we hit the halfway point in our outline, but much farther than the halfway point through the show. We can make the back half of this very fast. Really fast. Steve is going to tell us about a new partner for the show, Extra Points.
yes. So I have been a longtime subscriber of Extra Points before they joined to support us in the 1012 network. But Extra Points has been like really great on getting people informed in college sports, whether it's a D3 conference realignment move or the EA Sports college football video game released last year. Matt Brown has been at the forefront of this. He used to work at SB Nation, and now he's on this Extra Points venture doing his own thing. I listened to his like podcast a while back. Like I really enjoy things that he's doing because he talks about the business of sports, but he's still a fan. Like unfortunately he's an Ohio State fan, so we do have to give him a little bit of crap for that. But he wrote a really good article this year, Justin. That I sent to you about our friends in Lot 18 at BYU, and because
Yep.
just pieces like that he is really informative on, and he's very good. He's very well connected. He connects people with different FOIA. He does good FOIA requests as well, and he's always writing something interesting about college sports. So if you want interesting college sports stories in your inbox, whether it be any of the topics that are going on nowadays, you should subscribe to the Extra Points newsletter. There's a free option and a paid option. I would definitely recommend the paid option. It's a bunch of great stories in there, but the free option, he gives a lot of great content as well. So just go ahead and go to extrapointsmb.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you might just see the 1012 network and maybe even this podcast logo on that newsletter. So shout out to Matt Brown, one-time Ohio guy. So I'm sure he can find a soft spot in his heart for the Cincinnati Bearcats, just down south of that other school. But again, go to extrapointsmb.com and subscribe to Matt Brown's newsletter, and you will learn something about college sports. So I would highly recommend it. I've been reading and listening for years.
Fantastic. And as well, a shout out to our friends, Charlie Hustle. We're going to show some quick merch here. We're going to do a quick rundown of what we've got this week. So, of course, it's the Bearcats. Vibes are low. However, the mantra, as we all know, strength in unity. Keep it together, folks. As dire as times seem, there's still hope in there somewhere. We're all hopeless romantics. It's okay. We want the Bearcats to be good. So check out this Strength and Unity shirt that's on Charlie Hustle's wonderful website. Also, coming up this week, tonight, for those of you listening on debut day of the show, we have UCF on the road. Of course, the beautiful Citronauts merch. I mean, you can't beat it. The is it naval blue or coral? Canaveral blue. I knew I was close. The Canaveral blue. Beautiful statement piece there. And honestly, again, another great piece. The varsity jackets from Charlie Hustle's lineup. Really love those there. And then, of course, BYU. Get those guys at home. Hopefully, the Bearcats can split the series on the season and get right. We'll see how that goes. But more BYU hoops there. And for those of you who enjoy BYU as a school, like myself, it doesn't hurt as much if at least they win. So I don't know. We'll see. But all of those wonderful pieces, the t-shirt, the varsity jacket, the very comfortable sweatshirt, all of that is available at charliehustle.com/collegiate. And then go to the Big 12 filter, find anything in there. But you can also check out all of the rest of their product, which is great. Comfy threads, keeping you warm. We're in a weird flex season now. Spring is starting, but the groundhog says otherwise. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get more winter. Maybe we won't. It's starting to warm up here. I'm hoping it sticks around. So use that promo code 1012 network, the new promo code 1012 network for 15% off of all non-sale items with our friends Charlie Hustle at www.charliehustle.com. Steve, it's time for Viva la Cash. We have some lines, some juicy numbers. The Bearcats play on the road at UCF. This is a game that we all wrote off a very long time ago. UCF started off really well, has started to slide a bit. They look fairly equal with us. However, I think we all know that they have a bit of an advantage right now. How much of an advantage? It would be a 3-point advantage. Bearcats are, unfortunately, 3-point dogs on the road, which makes sense. I get it. We were not expecting that line, but it is what it is. So, Steve, 3-point dogs, over under set at 145. And of course, the money line. Hit me with all three.
Justin, I can't go against the Bearcats against UCF. Come on now. You think I was going to do that? Give me the Cats money line. Give me Cats plus 3.5 at some places if you can find it, by the way. And if it goes wrong, I will go for the under. I'll play them separately and roll it into a parlay. But I do feel that this could be a little bit of a last stand for us. It's a rival. I don't remember if we play West Virginia on the road this year. So it's like it's a homecoming. Either way, it's a homecoming for Dylan Mitchell. Shout out to him. I want to see what this team does, how they respond. UCF is a fast-paced team. They're going to run up and down the floor. They got a guy that scores 40 points. They got Mikey Williams too, like a guy with 3 million followers on Instagram. They've got like a pretty decent team. So they can and probably should beat us, but it depends on what the Bearcats players want to do about it. This is probably your last stand. If you really want to try and make this turn around, or if you're resigned, then just do what you got to do. But if Justin, I can't pick against our conference rival. I can't pick our conference rival, even though you did display that lovely Charlie Hustle merch in the Canaveral blue. Honestly, I would consider it if they were not our rival. I would consider wearing that, but
I would too.
What about you, Justin?
Steve, I'm going to make it really simple for you. I mean, I love the energy you got, but ain't a chance, brother. I mean, this is chalk it up. This is a loss. Like, this is not happening. Let me just tell you really fast what UCF has done this season. So, opening up Big 12 play, they won at Texas Tech. Great. We lost at Texas Tech. Cool. Whatever. Beginning of the season. Versus Kansas, 99-48 loss. Terrible. However, go down the list, some of their more recent games. 1-point loss against number 10 Houston. Kind of got beat the crap out of by Iowa State. And then a 4-point game to Kansas. Do you think that this team, as it currently stands, the Cincinnati Bearcats, can do anything close to performance of what UCF did against those teams? If we're using transitive property, UCF is a lot closer to those teams, and we are much farther. They did just lose to BYU. However, if you put things in perspective, we're probably going to lose to UCF too. So chalk it up. UCF's going to cover. It's a road game. They want it more. Their team has it together. We don't. They are currently 4-6 in the Big 12 to our 2-8. This is a loss for sure. So I'm going to take UCF. I'm going to take the under because there's no chance that either of these teams are going to be scoring. Because if anything, Cincinnati will at least limit the scoring. They'll just score 50 points in response. So 140, 70, 145, that's 72 points per team. Not a chance. That's the easiest under that we might have seen all season long.
Are we hitting 50?
Yeah. Are we hitting 50?
What's UCF, the Cincinnati team total?
UCF might break 70, but I don't know. I really don't know.
They could break 80, dude. They're fast paced. They run.
They could, but I just don't see it making up the difference. And so therefore, UCF clean slate, take the under. Sucks, but
Yep.
It is what it is. Prove me wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
Wes keeps saying he wants to prove people wrong, but prove us wrong, man.
Yeah,
Come on,
prove us wrong, brother.
do it.
Shut me up, please.
I dare you.
I'm tired of it. Shut me up. I want to start being an optimist and less of a doomer and gloomer. Speaking of doom and some optimism, Steve, a little update on our Big 12 head-to-head, our draft as it currently stands.
Justin, this has been a lot of fun following this year. I've really enjoyed following along. I send out the updates in the group chat. Couple now it's like 4 nights a week that we're getting Big 12 games. 5 if you have a Sunday game as well. There's Big 12 basketball on every day of the week other than usually Thursday and Friday. So a quite enjoyable league to watch. I will update with, at this moment, Houston has just gone final in their game against Oklahoma State. So they add a win to their record. They win by 7 points at home, bouncing back from a loss, 9 points at home, bouncing back from a loss over the weekend in a great game against Texas Tech. Houston was wearing their version of blue on Saturday as well. So, and they unfortunately dropped that one to Texas Tech. Grant McCaslin gets kicked out in like the first TV segment with Jacob Toppin as well, and they somehow still find a way to win that game. So shout out to the Red Raiders there. They are currently playing as well, and they were up 34-24 on Baylor at halftime. But either way, that game only helps the Ghost team, does not help us. So
I really just want to add this really fast too, just so people know. Houston is 14-1 with a 1-point overtime loss to Texas Tech. 14-1 since December.
Yep.
Or including December. That is just insane. Anyway.
Yep. They've turned it on. They did not have a conference loss before last Saturday. So Justin, your Iowa State Cyclones have unfortunately lost their last 3 games. Brother, what happened? Well, last 3? Is that right? No, just last 2. Just last 2. And then no, last 3, because they lost to Arizona last Monday night, the Monday night before on that in overtime after the buzzer beater. So a little bit of a slide. Yeah, a little bit of a slide there for your boys. And then you've got Kansas State. They are playing on the road at Arizona State. That game just tipped off as we were recording. And you've got BYU playing against my Arizona Wildcats. So currently, Justin, I have a 55-31 record, and I am 1 up on the Ghost team. And Joel and Justin, you both are at 0 up on the Ghost team. So whoever wins, if you get that 2 wins with Kansas State and BYU tonight, you could be 2 up by the end of the night. So
that's true.
Unfortunately for Joel, he was an eternal optimist, picked the Bearcats on his team, and that has not helped him.
That has done 0 favors. If there is one terrible pick from the second tier, it was that one.
I think the only thing that is helping us, though, Justin, is that Colorado is just plain awful.
Bad.
And they are tanking the Ghost team. But we talked about this in the group chat. I'll let the people know. We are extending this all the way to the end of March Madness. So Ghost team could still make a run if Baylor and Tech make a run in the postseason.
And Tech might just do it.
And they might just do it. You know what? Joel might only have one tournament team, and it's Kansas. And fun fact for you, Justin. Every time Kansas has been rated a preseason #1 team, they have not made it to the Sweet 16. So Joel might be out first weekend if he does not get Cincinnati, West Virginia, or Arizona State into the big dance. And then
I thought we couldn't meet the grand expectations. Wow.
Yeah. And then you, my friend, you have Iowa State, but I think BYU is a bubble team, but question mark on that. So we'll see what happens. Again, I've been really enjoying following this. This has been in an otherwise dreadful basketball season for my favorite team. It's been great to watch some Big 12 ball. I watched the Arizona State game on Saturday. There was an ejection, a double ejection. There was a headbutt. People weren't shaking hands. Bobby Hurley went off in the post-game press conference about he wasn't going to vote for a player. You had the Houston Texas Tech game. You had the Baylor Kansas game. On Monday night, I was watching a little bit of the Kansas first half where they looked high flying and razzle dazzle once again at home. 38-0 in home games on Big Monday for Kansas. So, man, college basketball is heating up right now. There's only a month left really in the regular season. So you should definitely start watching now so that you can be better at brackets than your friends when March Madness time rolls around.
It's very true. I mean, hey, you never know. Bearcats still got 10 games left. You could go from 2-8 in conference to 12-8, still possible, Steve.
We're just saving it up for the chip. We're just saving it up for that Tuesday to Saturday run in Kansas City. That'd be beautiful.
You know what's crazy? I mean, like, can I know we're really
Be
late in the
crazy,
show.
son.
I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Be crazy.
Like, what do you think it would do, like, to the soul of Cincinnati fans if, let's just say, they lost to UCF? Okay, you got 9 games left, so you're currently sitting at 2-9 at this point, and then you continue to just win out, which would then put you at 11-9.
Yeah, 11-9. Yep.
What would that physically, like, what would that do to the psyche? Like, I feel like my trust issues are already so bad. I think it would be absolutely terrible. I would be so excited, but I would be terrified. And then you get to tournament time and then they just lose again. I don't even know. Like, I mean, we've got nothing else to talk about other than what they could be, because we know what they aren't.
Or on the other hand, you go on some sort of NC State DJ Burns type run last year where you beat Duke, beat whoever's at the top, beat Houston somehow, win the conference tournament, and then beat Houston again in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. Like they I don't think that's really going to happen, because I don't even think we're going to win. I don't think we're going to win in the conference tournament either. That's just me. But there's hope can do a lot of crazy things to a man, as the good Red from Shawshank Redemption once said.
Let's hope that this team actually still has an ounce of hope left in themselves, because most other people have lost hope. Let's hope that they still have hope in themselves. Steve, that's a Big 12 head-to-head. Finish us out. Hit us with that Bearcat Sports wrap-up, and let's get out of here, because we've been talking for a long time.
Yes, sir, brother. It is a packed and racked big Bearcat Sports. I almost said Big 12. Bearcat Sports wrap-up this weekend. We got a lot more sports that are playing right now. So I went 6 cells deep on the spreadsheet. So we're going deep. First up, quick shout out to Travis Kelce and Brian Cook. You might know these guys by now. They are going for their 3rd straight Super Bowl victory on Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I understand not wanting to root for the Chiefs or root for a dynasty, but I would ask you to consider the Philadelphia fans and ask yourself, do I want these cretins from the underworld to be happy, or do I just want to respect greatness? So respect greatness, respect Travis Kelce. Go for your 4th ring, 3rd in a row. Make history on Sunday. Same with Brian Cook, by the way.
Just so you all know, we are all wearing Bengals gear in this house on Sunday as protest. That is all I have to say. Continue.
I have not decided what I'm going to wear on Sunday. So lacrosse starts this week. Women's lacrosse. Cincinnati hosts Vanderbilt this Saturday at Nippert Stadium. Lacrosse is now an official Big 12 sport. It was the last sport that UC was a member of the American Athletic Conference, and now the Big 12 is sponsoring lacrosse for the first year this season. Cincinnati was picked to finish 4th in the league, and they returned preseason All Big 12 star and national preseason All-American Cam Callahan, who scored. Justin, you want to take a wager on how many goals she scored last year?
Last year, I mean, I swear it had to be at least like 6 a game. She was just on fire.
56, Justin. It was a burger. She put up a 56 burger on him last year. So again, we talk about using your ESPN Plus subscription for sports other than basketball. Lacrosse is playing on Saturday. Go watch Cam Callahan play. She might just rip off like 4, 5, 6 goals. Like she's that good. She is box office. Like we've got some box office athletes right now that not enough people are watching. I'm going to tell the people about it. And we're going on next with tennis. They swept Butler this past weekend, 7-0. Get those brooms out. And they will host Western Kentucky this upcoming weekend at the Western Athletic Club on the west side of Cincinnati. Swimming and diving will swim their way up to Oxford for a weekend meet with Miami. And hopefully they will get to celebrate at one of Oxford's many establishments after their meet. Track and field, they will race out to Lincoln, Nebraska for a meet at the Husker Invitational this weekend. I wonder if they'll talk some trash about the football game upcoming. And then women's basketball, they not last but not least, of course, women's basketball defeated Houston at home last week before a tough game in Waco against Baylor on Sunday. Katrina Merriweather's Cats host Iowa State, as you're listening, tonight, Wednesday night, and they will host Kansas on Saturday afternoon. The men do play at host BYU Saturday night, but if you want to go earlier in the day, go to see a UC team potentially win a game against a Kansas basketball team, that's your opportunity. So really though, like this team deserves more credit and they deserve more respect. And Jillian Hayes is a bowler. I will use my platform for good, Justin, and continue to say, Jillian Hayes, you need to watch her. It's her last season. She is currently not allowed to play more basketball seasons unless she finds a way. But this is her last season wearing the red and black. Go watch her. Go support her. She's a dog. Katrina Merriweather has a team full of dogs, and they're a lot of fun, man. Like I know the game against Baylor was tough, not the score you wanted to see, but they're good, man. So I want everybody to go watch 1, Jillian Hayes, and 2, Cam Callahan, and 3, baseball team, by the way. They start up next week. First home game, February 18th. It might not even be over 40 degrees, but I want to see people there. So that's all I got for the Bearcat Sports wrap up, Justin.
Thank you very much, sir. Detailed as always. And guess what, folks? We've talked to you for an absolute eternity. So it is time to pack it in. It's bedtime. Hopefully the Bearcats can figure out how to just win more than 2 games on the remaining 10 games left of the season. Hopefully UCF on the road is one of them, and we can prove that we can win another game on the road. Would be great. With all that said, thank you very much for listening to us this week. It's been a pleasure having all of your ears. As always, please make sure to check out the 10-12 Network, providing all the great information every single week on the Big 12. And as well, thank you to our sponsors, Extra Points and Charlie Hustle, for always bringing us the great merch and the great information. It's the information age, Steve. Got to get it where we can. So
you got to get the right information.
Exactly. And we apparently will not give you the right information. So with all that said, thank you very much for listening this week. Have a great one, folks. Go Bearcats. And as always, Viva
the Cats.
Yeah. Boo Chiefs.